For those of you that weren't here last class, please be quiet. I'll have a video posted for you about how we went through and did the 1-point perspective drawing that is in here. The other thing that you missed that day is we went through the drafting kits and had you select one, and it was basically assigned to you now by putting your name on the tape that's attached to it. If you did not do that, we're going to have to go through and get that taken care of today, although we won't go through and do the part where we make sure that all the stuff is in it right now. We'll do that later. However, for today, what you're going to need from said drafting kits, gosh, why is this backwards, is this manual. Everybody should have one of these, and you should have a straight edge. For the assignment that we did last class, which is essentially like this one right here, it basically walks you through it step by step in this book. Although for everybody else, hopefully, it goes in the right order. Somehow, this section got put in upside down and backwards. But essentially, we're talking about 1-point perspectives. We went through and discussed what a perspective is. We talked about vanishing points, things of that nature. And like I said, I should have a video in Canvas for you over that part, if not the instructions on how to do the assignment itself, because that is in the manual in front of you, which you also have a digital copy of. For that one, for this one, the Perspectives in Action, a Road, I don't want you using straight edges for it. We did all of this by hand. Just like all of our assignments, you have to create a title block to start with. And honestly, anything that you need to pick up for this one, you're probably going to pick up today during the one where we're doing for this class, which is 2-point perspectives. And I didn't get as far with the other classes I had hoped with this one, but we only had an hour yesterday. Plan on getting a little bit further in this today. For those of you that were here last class, I told you not to turn in the 1-point perspective assignment yet. There is a turn-in for it now on Canvas called Lab 3, 1-point perspectives. Some of you accidentally turned Lab 1 into the Lab 3 assignment. If you did that, just resubmit it with the correct assignment when you're done. Also, make sure that that Lab 1 assignment did get turned into the Lab 1 assignment box. Today, we're going to move on to 2-point perspectives. So, there's not a whole lot of difference when it comes to 1- and 2-point perspectives, at least in terms of the methods that you use to draw them. The biggest difference is that with a 1-point perspective drawing, you have 2 true dimensions when you are facing the person who is looking at the drawing. Your views are going to have accurate measurements for the height and the width of the front plane. We probably didn't talk about that part the day before, but the front plane is essentially what part of the drawing that you're looking at is closest to the viewer. Okay? In this case, for my drawing here, it was the fronts of these fence posts. And if there was a specific height for them that I wanted and a specific width, that would be true here at this plane. Everything going in the distance has a true shape, but the height changes as you recede in the distance. So if you were to say that this fence post was 3 feet tall, you would draw it at whatever your scale is for 3 feet, but as you recede into the distance, they would get shorter and narrower, even though they retain their vertical and horizontal proportions, I guess is the word I'm looking for. The difference is when it comes to a 2-point perspective, the only true measurement that you have at the front plane is the height. Everything else is skewed towards the vanishing points. Okay? So, for this assignment, I want you to use a straight edge. You should have gotten one out earlier. I don't care if it's a triangle or your scale or what have you. Just as long as it's got a straight edge to work from. And we're going to start today. Dig this out of here. As we have started the last few drawings that we've done by creating ourselves a title block. Our title block, even though we're drawing it with a straight edge, doesn't really change in terms of what I want you to do. Okay, guys, can you stop talking when I am teaching, please? So what we're going to do, same as before, we're going to come in about 1/4 of an inch. You actually have the ability to measure that now, but you don't have to. As we move forward, things are going to get more and more precise, and you're going to be expected to measure things more and more accurately as we go along. This is the only time we have this class this week. Next week, we're going to play a little bit of catch-up because the other class is going to be 2 classes in front of you because of the way the snow days worked out and the fact that Friday is a white day. But that's not a big deal. There's going to be ample time because starting with the next class, we're going to start using the drafting tools for our assignments. We're kind of using them a little bit right now for the straight edges, but we're still very much doing a more artistic style of technical drawing rather than a full-on mechanical drawing. All right, so once you have your box around the inside of your paper, come up about 1/4 of an inch on one of the long sides, just like we did before, and make your title block. So you start off with your first initial, last name, just like we've been doing. This assignment is called 2-point. This is purple 2, and the date is 1/28/26. And can you believe January is already almost over? It is insane how fast time goes these days, it feels like. All right, now that we have our title block in place, let's put our horizon line in. We're going to go somewhere just about center, maybe a little above the page center, and we're just going to put a light line straight across, just like we did last class, just like that. This is our horizon line. If you remember from when we were talking about this drawing, the horizon line acts as the difference between something that is angling down and something that is angling up. So we're all heading towards this point here on the 1-point perspective, and our lines go down to it. Above the horizon line is angled up. Below is angled down, and if it's at the horizon line, it follows the horizon line. After you have the horizon line in place, you need to pick 2 spots on each side of the, or 1 spot on each side of the paper. I would go 1 inch a bit in. It doesn't have to be perfect. Everybody's is going to be different. But as long as it is fairly close to the edges, you can kind of see right above my communication finger that I've got the dots right there. So those are going to be our vanishing points. We have our left vanishing point and our right vanishing point. And the decision about which one you go to depends on which side of your starting point you are on. So the next thing we have to do is determine where that starting point is. Now, there are two things that you can follow in this. Well, here, actually, let's do this first. No matter which of the two options you're going to choose from the notebook, the first thing you have to do is draw a cube. So we're going to do that together. So I'm going to choose a spot that's somewhere about halfway between center and the right side of my page, and about a third of the way from the bottom of the page up. So right there. Again, as long as it's somewhere in this vicinity, you don't have to really think about measurements yet for it. But this is going to be the starting point, or rather the closest point of my cube to myself, the viewer. From this spot, before we do any of the vanishing point lines, remember, when you're doing a 2-point perspective, the only true vertical or the only true line measurement is your vertical line. So if you have something you can measure with, you can measure. I don't really care. Or you can still eyeball it. But essentially, I want a line that's about an inch tall, coming straight up from that dot. So just like that. This is going to make up, like I said, the portion of the cube that is closest to us, the viewer, or the front of our picture here. So what we're going to do is from the top and the bottom of this line both, we're going to lightly carry lines to both of our vanishing points. What do I mean by that? Pretty simple. I'm going to put my pencil on the top of the line. I'm going to tilt my straight edge until it's touching my vanishing point, and I'm going to draw a line to it. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with the bottom, just like that. Once I have these two, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. There we go. All right, I'm going to show you guys something. I don't want you to follow along with this part yet, otherwise you're going to have to do some erasing. But I told you that when it comes to 2-point perspectives, the only true measurement is your height. I measured this to be 1 inch or very close to it. If I were to come along my line here, from my starting point, measure up 1 inch, remember, don't do this, and carry my line up, visually, or rather from a measurement perspective, this is an inch and this is an inch. But visually, this does not look like it's a square, because it's receding into the distance, and as something recedes into the distance, your vision tracks it getting smaller and smaller as you go away. This is called depth perception. We are faking depth perception here because this paper is two-dimensional. It has no depth to it. Just like, depending on if I'm wearing glasses or contacts, my depth perception is very different. When I'm wearing glasses, I have almost no depth perception. Everything seems flat unless you literally look smaller further away. When I have my contacts in, I have pretty good depth perception, but it makes these stairs a nightmare for me when I'm going down them with my glasses on, because it just looks like I'm walking down a ramp. I'm surprised I haven't broken my neck. The same thing is a problem here. When I measure this out to 1 inch and draw my line up, it looks wrong. In fact, if I want this to look like a square, I need to make it shorter. And you can see here that this looks much better when it's measured incorrectly. So that's what I want you to do. Don't measure the distance if you measured the height. But go ahead and eyeball it where it looks proportionally correct. And still use your straight edge. That's perfectly fine. There we go. See, and that looks much better. Once you have this side, you're going to do the same thing on this side. You're going to put a line where it looks decently like it should be a square. And again, this is a place where some of you who have a more technical or analytical brain could have problems with this. Because you want it to be right. You want it to be accurate. And this type of drawing really doesn't have that. Okay. So in order to finish our cube, we have to draw lines on the back. But remember, anything that's not vertical is receding to the vanishing point. So starting here, put my pencil on the end of my line, and I'm going to take it to my vanishing point. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Except for this one, I'm not going to go all the way to the vanishing point. I'm just going to stop at the next line so I don't have to do as much erasing. And then I'm going to erase my receding lines a little bit. Not all of them, because I'm going to need more, or need them for more of the drawing. And at that point, you should have a 2-point vanishing point perspective drawing of a cube. So here's where you get to make a decision. We're going to spend probably the next, I guess, about 40 minutes until the end of class working on drawing this out. You have a choice to make, though, before we get to that, and that is which one of these you are going to draw. Let's see here. We already did this part. So you can either do the block warehouse here. You would need to make it more complex than what's on here. So you're going to work on this for the rest of the class period. But essentially, we did all the way to 6 right here in class. You're going to keep adding to that, and you can keep adding and keep going until it looks pretty cool. Or you can go the route of drawing the farmhouse and the field and the roads like I did here. And that's what's on the second page here. We basically did everything up to number 6 on that one as well. But they keep going and turn it into a farmhouse with a field and a barn and some clouds. You get to choose which one you want to do. I don't care which. But you do need to continually work on this to the end of class and then turn it into Lab 4 at the end of the day today. Do you guys have any questions before I let you get started on this? You are free to ask questions as we go, but... All right.